In this video, we'll create the idler arm that you see here on screen. Now here's a detailed drawing of the idler arm, and you can see here from the sectional view that the model is symmetric about the front plane, and here in the front view we can see it's also symmetrical about the right plane. Looking at the design intent for the model, the part is symmetrical about the central axis, as we've already seen, and therefore it makes sense to put the model origin on this axis so we can make maximum use of symmetry in our sketches and also in our in conditions when we extrude our features. All the fillets and rounds in the model are radius 3 millimeters. We'll use aluminium alloy as the material, so 1060 aluminium alloy, and at the end the weight of our model should be around 688 grams. A modeling tip that I would recommend is that when we are adding features, it makes sense to create the boss features before the cut features, as this avoids problems later on of cut features, removing material that you have to add in. A modeling tip that I would recommend is that you create the cut features after the boss features, or putting it the way I have there on the screen, create the boss features first. And by doing things in this order, it avoids problems later on in your model when if you have cut features already created and then you start adding in boss features, you may run into problems with the boss features violating the features that you A general modeling tip that applies in this model and in modeling generally is to create our boss features first. By leaving the cut features to later in our design tree, then we avoid any issues with our boss features damaging or violating our cut features. You'll see this as we go on in the model, and it will make sense to you. I have decided to put the origin at the center of this boss feature here, and that's the first feature that we're going to create. So this is an important feature in our model, and of course the sketch must be fully defined, and it can be fully defined with the given dimensions. So there are a number of different ways you could go about modeling this, and we'll look at this in SolidWorks. Looking at the sequence of creating the different features, you can see here to make use of our symmetry on the front plane, I've used a mid-plane extrusion here, and as we go on we'll use mid-plane extrusions in the other direction as well. So we'll create our boss features first, and then we'll go on and create our cut features, and usually at the end then we would leave our cosmetic fillets, and these can be added in at the end in a logical sequence. So we'll go and model this part now in SolidWorks. I'll begin by opening a new part document. So I'll select one of my part templates. So I have a plain carbon steel template here. So my material currently is plain carbon steel. I am modeling this using aluminium. So I'm going to right click on plain carbon steel and select 1060 alloy. So it's important to have the correct material in order to get the correct weight at the end. So I'll begin by opening a sketch on our front plane. So select plane and click the sketch tool, and we can do everything from there. Now I'm using mouse gestures, so by dragging my right mouse button, I'll start by drawing a circle from the origin. The finished circle will have a radius of 25 or a diameter of 50. So I want to draw the top portion now, so I'm going to change to line. So right mouse button and drag my cursor to the left. We'll pick up the line tool, and clicking anywhere here in the circle, I will draw a vertical line. Now if I drag away from the next endpoint and then go back over it again, SolidWorks will change to a tangent arc. So I'm going to draw my semicircle and bring the line down there to meet the circle. If you press escape or double click the left mouse button, that will end your line command. Now you can see here that we've got a line there at the start that we shouldn't have, so I'm going to delete that out. So that happened there at the start when we were drawing our line away. We ended up drawing a little line. So if that happens, you just zoom in and delete it out. So this is clearly not symmetrical. So to make this symmetrical, I'm going to draw a construction line. So just draw a regular line from our origin, drag it straight up there, make sure it's vertical. And if I right click on it, I can convert it into a construction line. So if I draw a crossing window, picking up the two vertical lines and the center line, I now have the option to add symmetry. So make symmetric. So this is important. So now we have symmetry here in this sketch here. Now I'm going to draw a line tangent to the circle. So if you click anywhere on a circle and you drag away from it like that, you can see the line is automatically tangent there like that. So I'll draw a line down there, click, I'll draw a horizontal line, and again making sure it's horizontal, look at the feedback, and I want to draw a line back to the circle that's also tangent. So again, looking at the feedback there, you can see that the line is tangent. And double click your left mouse button or press escape to complete that line. So by clicking on the relations here, you can see that I've got a tangent relation between the line on the left and the circle, and I've got the same over here. This also needs to be symmetrical. I can use the same line up here, and if I'm going to use that now, I won't be able to use a crossing window, but if I click that line and if I press Control on clicking these two slope lines, I can also add symmetry there with respect to the same center line. Okay, so again, checking that, you can see now, so our sketch is now more intelligent. Because I've got shaded sketch contours turned on, we can see here that the circle is shaded in, but this area here is not, and neither is the area at the bottom. So I want to create a closed profile here that's all shaded in. So I'm going to trim away the parts of the circle that I don't want. So again, using my right mouse button and dragging, and you can see I've got 12 mouse gestures there on my wheel. And if you don't have 12 mouse gestures, you can turn those on by going in here to options and going customize and go to mouse gestures, and just make sure that your mouse gestures are set to 12, and then you'll have 12 mouse gestures. So dragging to the southwest, there's the trim tool. I'm just going to use power trim. I do have an option here to keep trimmed entities. I'm not going to use that on this occasion. We don't need any construction geometry for our trim circle. So just left clicking and dragging over the circle will get rid of that portion, and I'll do the same down here. So all I'm doing is left dragging over our part of the circle that we want to remove. So there's my sketch now. I'm now ready to add the dimensions. So right mouse button, drag straight up to the top, and I can start adding my dimensions. Now when you add the first dimension, SolidWorks will scale everything proportionally. So the radius on this is currently 38.9 and our final radius is 25. So if I type in 25, everything has now been scaled proportionally and our sketch doesn't distort. This here is 25. The distance from the bottom edge to the center of the circle, or the origin, which is the same thing, but I'm going to select the circumference of the circle when I'm adding my dimension, and that's 32. That gives you more options. SolidWorks will find the center of the circle by clicking on its circumference, and similarly clicking on the circumference and clicking on the circumference of this arc here, I will get the vertical distance between those centers, and that's 45. So as I begin to add my dimensions, as you can see there, the sketch is turning black, which means it's becoming fully defined. So clicking on this radius here, and that's 14, and now my sketch is fully defined. So that's one way to create this profile here. So that's our sketch completed. You do have the option of rounding these corners here if you wanted to with the sketch fillet, which you will find here on the sketch toolbar, or if you drag your right mouse button you'll also find it here on the southeast. So that's my sketch. I'm happy with that. What I'm going to do is put those fillets in later on as an applied feature, but you could put them in this sketch using the sketch fillet tool. Let's go right click here and extrude our boss base. So I'm going to make use of symmetry here when we create our feature by using the mid-plane condition. So mid-plane, and as you can see there now, that places the sketch at the center of our extrusion, and we just put in the total distance from front to back. And in this case the extrusion depth is 55. So there is our first feature. The extrusion depth is 55, so SolidWorks will calculate that the sketch needs to be in the center and will work out in an equal distance on both sides. Click OK, and there's our first feature created. You do have the option, if you wanted to, of right clicking on a sketch and giving it a color just to make it stand out in your model. And then if I right click on the sketch and click on the show tool here, and the sketch is then visible. I'll turn that off. We're going to concentrate on creating the boss features, as we said before, because if I were to create some cuts at this stage, these then would make it more difficult to add boss features through the model. The next feature I'll create is the one at the top, so I'm going to open a sketch on the top plane. So the top plane of course coincides there with the origin of our sketch for our circle. So there's the model origin right at the heart of the model. So clicking on the top plane, let's open a new sketch. So I'm now looking straight down on the model, and let's draw a circle. And the origin is exactly where I need it to be. So drawing our circle there and looking at the drawing there, the diameter of that is 45. So let's dimension that. Let's change to our isometric view, and you can see that circle is drawn there on the top plane, and we're just going to extrude this up as a boss feature for a distance of 70 millimeters. So we can use this handle here and snap it to the ruler there like so. So 70 millimeters, that is the extrusion distance there vertically from the top plane. Let's click OK on that. There are lots of ways and sequences that you can take to modeling most parts. So I've created that one first, but equally I could have created the rectangle sketch on the bottom first, but by doing it this way I can relate the size of my rectangle to the diameter of this circle because they are actually the same size. So again, click on the top plane and let's open a sketch. This time I want to draw a rectangle, so dragging straight down, there's the rectangle tool, and when you draw a rectangle, I'm going to draw a center rectangle. I think would be the best option here, and we can put in construction lines from corners if we want. So using that option, I'm going to click here again on the origin and drag out my rectangle. So that rectangle is on the top plane, and looking in normal to it, I'm now going to dimension this. So rather than making this side 45 millimeters, it's better for our design intent if I capture this relation with a tangent relation. So I'm going to control select the edge of our circle and our line, and I'm going to add a tangent relation there with the pop-up that appears. So you can see now that that defines those lines in that direction. The depth I will add with a dimension. So in this direction, the distance across there is 24. And I'm going to extrude this down 95 millimeters as per the drawing. So again, right clicking and extrude boss base. I'm going to reverse the direction and I'm going to put in the depth of 95. So now that's our third feature. The next boss feature I'll create is the cylindrical feature at the bottom. So I'm going to go back to my front plane and I'm going to open a sketch and drawing a circle from the midpoint of the bottom edge, and the software again picks up the midpoint there for me. So just draw a circle. Let's dimension that. The diameter is 65. So there's our feature. Again, it's on the symmetry plane, which is the front plane in this direction, and extrude this out. Again, I'm going to use mid plane for my in condition. So changing to mid plane and giving the total distance, which is 35, that will create that feature. So the first four features are all boss features. So now I'm ready to start removing material. I can do this in a lot of different ways. I'll start by creating a cut through here on the cylindrical feature at the bottom. So now this time I'm going to open a sketch directly on that face, wake up the geometry here before I draw my circle. So by clicking on it, I wake up the center. That makes it concentric. Now let's dimension this. And that is diameter of 40 millimeters. Right click and again using my shortcut menu, extrude cut, and that's through all is the correct in condition here. So change that to through all. Through all in that direction, of course, and click OK. The next feature I'm going to create is the cut. Actually, I missed a boss feature. There's another boss feature that I forgot to add in, running in this direction here. So it doesn't matter that this cut's created beforehand, because it's not going to interfere with this boss feature up here. But nevertheless, I'm going to just use the roll back here just to demonstrate that to you. So I've rolled back my design tree here before the cut feature that I just created, and I'm going to put in the other boss feature first. So this time on the right plane, let's open a sketch, and again you see the advantage of creating the first sketch with the origin in the correct place. It makes it so much easier to add subsequent features. So again, the origin for my sketch is in the correct location. Let's draw my circle. Let's dimension this. If you inadvertently exit out of a sketch, the sketch is now gray. If you double click on it, you can get back into your sketch again. So the sketch is now active. Let's dimension the diameter of this boss feature. So this is 28 millimeters, and again that's where it is on the right plane. So we're going to create this as an extrusion, and again we're going to use mid plane to make use of symmetry. So the total distance across there is 75. So again, put in the total depth, and SolidWorks will calculate the extrusion there to be equidistant each side of our sketch. So let's click OK on that. So now we've all our boss features created. I'll roll forward, and there's the cut that we created earlier. I'll now create the cut here for the keyway on this face here. So click the face, open a sketch directly on that face there, and let's draw our circle. So there's a circle, it's got a keyway on the bottom of it, so let's put in a center line. Just make sure it's vertical, right click, make it a construction line, and let's so I'll make this symmetric. It's not symmetric currently, as you can see. So again, use my crossing window, picking up the center line there as well as the two vertical lines, make that symmetric. Now I'll trim away this bit of the circle here as we had before, and let's put a dimension on this circle. So clicking that and dragging it out there. The diameter is 35, which will make the radius 17.5. Now if you want to change this dimension to a diameter dimension, it's always better to use the dimensions on the drawing. Having added it there, I can right click on it and go display as diameter. So display as diameter, and get my dimension now to display as the diameter. So the size of my keyway, this here is 11, and the distance of this side here is 6. So there we go, 6 millimeters. So that is our cut now fully defined. So this sketch, of course, had to be created after this boss feature, otherwise it would make it, I couldn't use my mid-plane extrusion like I've done previously. So right click, this is a cut feature, in condition, through all, click OK. So by doing it in this order, then I'm not going to have any issues with trying to be removing boss features from within that cut later. So think about the sequence in which you create your features. So again, selecting the face directly of the model, let's open up a sketch and draw my circle. So again, I have auto rotate turned on so that I'm automatically, each time I create a sketch, looking in normal to the sketch plane, and that is a big time saver. So the diameter of this circle here is 12. Again, it is a through all cut, so create it as through all and click OK. Now I've just realized that I've created this cut here, but I also have a cut going through here. So when you think about this, I think it's clear that I should have created this cut before this one, because we wanted to run up to this surface here. So what I'm going to do here is just show you that we can, as we did before, roll back and say, you know what, this feature needs to go in first. So clicking on this face, we can change our mind. SolidWorks is very forgiving. You can edit any feature at any time, and you can go back and edit the sketches, and you can change the design tree order consistent with parent-child relations. So if I hover over any feature here, you can see that the parent features are there, and then if I go to the cut feature here, you can see that that cut feature is dependent on the boss feature that we created at the start. Okay, so selecting this face here, let's open a sketch and then draw our circle. So this circle has a diameter of 23. So there it is, fully defined. Now we want this to run up to meet this surface here. So if I go right click, select extruded cut, I want it to stop at this surface here. So rather than extruding this blind, which it is at the moment, if I were to change this feature here and it was greater than it is now, then this mightn't go through. So the correct in condition here is up to next. So selecting up to next, SolidWorks will find the next surface, which in this case is the cylindrical surface here. So click OK on that. Now let's roll forward, and we use through all on that one, so that's not affected by the feature that we've just added. Got another hole running through on this face here. So again, let's open our sketch, draw our circle, and the diameter of this hole is 12 millimeters. So again, this is a through all cut. Right click, extrude through all, and there it is. Now I haven't saved my model yet, so you can see here the first 5 features are all boss features, and then we've had 5 cuts. Now it doesn't always follow that is the way you're going to model, but generally speaking, as a rule, create your boss features before your cut features, makes your design intent more robust. So let's save this. So I'm saving it as an idler arm, and it's a SolidWorks part file, so click on save. So that's now saved, and we now have to add in our fillets. So there are a number of fillets, and we need to think about the order in which we're going to add fillets. They're all R3s, but I'm not going to add them all together because probably won't work. So let's select this edge here, and I'll click on the fillet tool. So the radius, I'll use the call out here, is 3 millimeters, and I'm going to pick the 4 vertical edges. Now I can select through the model like so. I'm also going to fillet this edge here and the corresponding one at this side, and the same at the other side. Now I've selected the wrong edge there, so just if you select the wrong one, just delete it out. And I'm also going to select, it probably would have been easier if I added the fillet radius to those edges in the sketch of the first feature, but I can add them now. So having added those fillets there, you might like to see them a bit easier, so I can give them a color. So just to make them stand out, I'll make those fillets red. So when we're adding fillets, we add them in a sequence that makes it easier for subsequent fillets to be added. So now if I select this edge here and I go to fillet this, again the radius is 3, you can see the way the fillet runs around there on all of these tangent edges, and that's because of tangent propagation. So think about the sequence. So similarly here, just selecting one edge, and the fillet will run around those edges because of tangent propagation, and similarly here, and corresponding one at this side. So I will add those 5 fillets there, like that. If you click Ctrl S at any stage, you can update your model. Again, if you want to change the color of those fillets, change the appearance, you can do so. And finally, if I select this edge here and add my fillet, so I've got a 3mm fillet at this side, and you have the corresponding one at that side. And let's click OK. Let's change the color on those. So again, change the appearance, it just makes it easier to see those on your model. So let's go to our isometric view. Let's check the weight of our part by going to the Evaluate tab and selecting Mass Properties. So 668.320. So that's exactly the weight that we gave you at the start of this video. So that's the correct weight of the part. What you learn from this exercise is the importance of using symmetry and of creating the first sketch with the origin in the correct location, because the origin of the first sketch, that's what determines where the model origin is. So using our symmetry there, we don't need any additional planes. So the front, top and right planes run right through the model. I can auto size these by right clicking on them, and they get sized then relative to the geometry like you see here. So there is the right plane running right through the heart of the model there, the front plane similarly running right through the model there. If you want to, you can have a section view and see what it looks like looking straight in from that direction there. And this is just taking a slice through the center of our model there, and we haven't actually cut the model. So check the weight for the part, and if you don't get the correct weight, then just go back and check your modeling geometry and make sure that everything is fully defined. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.